Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ramakrishna, and I'm standing in front of you to give the introduction of Mr. Santosh Mehra, sir. Sri Santosh Mehra, IPS, sir, is an additional commissioner of police of crimes. He pursued his MBA from Lucknow, Masters in Public Service and Administration from Texas University, USA. He did his advanced Masters in International Studies from Australia. He's a winner of President's Medal for his meritorious service and Internal Security Medal from Government of India. He has won the UN Peacekeeping Medal. He has worked as SP of Adilabad, Vizag, and Kurnool. He has also worked as a traffic chief of City Police Hyderabad, DIG and IG in Anti-Corruption Bureau. Thank you. Now I request sir to address the gathering. Thank you.
I think just now we heard a very, very inspiring and an all-encompassing speech from Mr. Menon. It was truly riveting, and all of us are moved by what he said. Standing here in the midst of such a huge gathering, I feel really overwhelmed and humbled for two reasons. One is that this is the premises of Ramakrishna Mission, which is one of the most committed organizations in this country. In fact, if you read today's perhaps Times of India or the Hindu, there is a very interesting article where the government of India has acknowledged that Ramakrishna Mission has been doing very good work, outstanding work, particularly in the state of Chhattisgarh. After racking their brains for a long period, the government of India, as per the today's article, says that they are going to collaborate with Ramakrishna Mission in Chhattisgarh for reaching out to the tribals in very, very inaccessible areas, particularly those places where the Naxalite influence is very, very high. They have given the example of Narayanpur district in Chhattisgarh, where Ramakrishna Mission is running schools and hospitals and also maintaining certain roads, which are going deep into the villages through the forest. And because of the commitment and the tremendous efforts being made by this mission, these schools, these hospitals are providing tremendous service. And finally, the government of India, in the light of the Naxalite menace over there, have chosen to join hands with this mission to promote and propagate medicine, health, and education. So hats off to this mission for giving me an opportunity to speaking to you. Thank you very much. The second thing that I like to mention is that talking to teenagers is always a challenge and also an opportunity. I have got two teenage children myself. I have a daughter, she is around 17, and my son who is around 19 and a half, just going past the teens. Why it is both a challenge and an opportunity? It's a challenge because in their teens, you have grown up enough, your minds are open, your minds are inquisitive, you are, as my friend said, you are effervescent, you are vibrant, you are looking forward to the whole world which is open in front of you, and therefore, you are also no great respecter of what the person is. You deal people, you judge people on the basis of what they say and what they do. Your minds are still not grown up enough to be wiped by status, to be influenced by status or the caste or the position of a person. You are still open enough to judge people on what they say and what they do. And therefore, it is also a challenge. Another interesting thing is, which my daughter keeps asking me, is, Papa, you seem to be having answers to all the questions. I say, no, all the answers lie in you. I only am a guide because probably I have got more experience. I don't know how many of you are students of biology. If you are, and I'm sure many of you would be, you would have heard of the concept of heterosis. What is heterosis? Heterosis, or also known as genetic vigor. The concept is very, very simple. It says that every generation is smarter and better than the preceding generation, which means my children are better than me, perhaps I was better than my parents. And if this is the way the world grows. Darwin's theory of the survival of fittest is a testimony to it. All of you are decidedly, definitely better than your parents. You are better than the people who are sitting on that stage, because that is how genetics works. This is how evolution works. Therefore, I keep telling my daughter also, beta, you are a lot smarter than me. Where I score is, probably I have got more experience on the journey called life. I have traveled slightly ahead of you. When all of us go to a new state, a new district, or a new place, what do? We ask the auto wala, or the rickshaw wala, or the pan wala, or the STD booth person to tell us how to reach our place, our hotel, or whatever the destination is. That does not make him any way better or more intelligent or smarter than us. It's just that he has been there around for a longer period. So he knows more about that particular place. That is how we, the parents, the elders, have by virtue of our experience, are able to guide you. That does not in any way make us better or more intelligent than you. This is one message I want to give you. The teenagers, the young generation is definitely smarter than us. You are doing very, very well. You are an excellent group of people, and the very fact that you have chosen to come to this place despite your examinations, as I was told, shows that you have got open minds, you have the willingness to learn things. You have come to here, and let me tell you, it's not an easy task sitting through the day, trying to imbibe the wisdom and experience and knowledge of people. Congratulations to all of you for this. My friend Mr. Menon has covered a very wide ambit of things. I really find myself at loss of words, what else to add. Yesterday I was told that should be speaking about qualities of a good student. So I have made a few points which I'll try to tell you, and will also support you with a few anecdotes and quotes. The first thing which is very important for any person, whether a student or an individual, is to have a big vision, to have huge imagination. Your imagination should be totally untrammeled. It should be totally unshackled. Your vision should be really big. And what is the best way of building up your vision? Take a chalk, go to the blackboard, make a circle. You make a small circle. Then go on your toes, make a bigger circle. Jump and make an even bigger circle. Try to make a circle as big as it is possible for you. That is what vision is going to be about. You have to think and dream big in life. A very simple example I'll give you, which I think many of you would have already heard perhaps, is of a man who went to a place and he found 3 people doing the same job. He asked the first person, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm breaking stones." He asked the second person, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm making these stones to build up the wall." He asked the third person, "What are you doing?" Well, I am doing this thing to build up this temple. So, though all the 3 people were doing exactly the same job, the vision of the third person was, he felt that he was making a contribution to the building of a temple. That is very important in life. Thinking big, having a big vision, imagining big is very important. You may be planning to become a doctor, but doctor is only okay, you are going to be sitting in an MSET examination or whatever. If you restrict your vision to that, it will not be fair. You should think that I am going to make a huge contribution to the health services of this great nation called India. That is what vision is about. Have a big vision. Have such a big vision that you find it difficult to reach, but at some point of time, if you have a big vision, you will be able to achieve it. Having big vision is very important. Now, having decided on what you want to be, what your destination is, having decided upon your vision, your mission, your goal, how do you go about achieving it? And that is where comes the importance of focus. What is meant by focus? You have all heard the example in Mahabharata of Arjun. When he was asked in that shooting competition, all others were asked, "What were you looking at?" Somebody said, "I am looking at the water. I am looking at the whole scenario. I am looking at the sky. I am looking at the people around." What was Arjun's reply? Will somebody tell me? "I was looking at the eye which has to be hit at." That is very important. You have to be absolutely focused in what you want to achieve. If you want to achieve something, you have to have total focus on it. That is very important in life. When you are focused, your attention has to be totally undivided on it. Just forget everything else. I have decided to qualify in this examination. I have decided to do well in this examination. I will think of nothing else. no Facebook, no TV program, no Skype, no mobile phone, nothing, no PlayStations. I am only thinking of doing well in my examination. There should not be any interference in what you plan to achieve. That is the second thing. Along with focus comes any important thing, which is called commitment. How do you show your commitment to a task or a job? I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Om Shanti Om. कितने लोगों ने यहाँ पे Om Shanti Om देखी है? Oh, that's excellent. A very, very big number has seen. Do you recall one dialogue of Shah Rukh Khan about achieving something? कोई बताएगा मेरे को यहाँ पे शाहरुख खान उस पिक्चर में क्या बोलता है? या आई थिंक हियर ओके आई टेल यू. वो कहता है तुम किसी चीज को अगर चाहो तो इस तरीके से चाहो, इस बेइंतहा मोहब्बत से चाहो कि और अगर उसको तुम बहुत ज्यादा चाहोगे तो सारी कायनात तुम्हारे साथ में आ जाएगी. दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. वॉट एवर यू वॉन्ट टू डू, you have to love it. You have to love it with all your passion, with all your involvement. And believe me, I have seen it in my life, and I have seen the examples of so many people. If you want to do something and you do it with passion, the whole world somehow comes together to help you to achieve it. It will happen. You have seen in the movie Om Shanti Om how it happens. There is a word for it in English which is called serendipity. Somehow it will happen if you are trying for something very, very hard. Things will fall in place. The entire juggle seesaw will come in a way that it will help you. You would have seen the examples of the person, Edward Jenner. How did he come about this, this vaccine for smallpox? He found that some people who were having this, who were basically having the interaction with cows, they were not developing it. That is what is called serendipity, which serendipity means you are somehow by chance stumble upon something for which you are looking for. It may appear to be like luck, but as they say, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So have the total commitment to the cause which you are thinking of. I'll give you one example from the life of Mother Teresa. This is something which I read in the papers after her death. It was from somebody who was manufacturing biscuits in Calcutta. When Mother Teresa went to him for the first time and requested him, कि I am running this Missions of Charity Hospital and I have a lot of young people also over there. Is it possible for you to give us some biscuits every month for my charity? That person said, no, I do not make enough profits and I do not have the money or do not have that to give you biscuits. So mother thought for some time and then she said, okay, she said, can I have a look around your factory? Said, okay, you go ahead. So Mother Teresa went around that factory, that biscuit making is, small factory, and she found that when the biscuits are being made in the molds, some biscuits are rectangular shape, some are given circular shape. There are, those outer portions which are falling out. The biscuits are made, and when they are having the peripheries, the margins of the biscuits, these are small remnants or bits of biscuits which are falling out. So she asked that managing director later on, what are you doing to these pieces of these bits and all? He says, we just throw them. Well, can we just start sending these bits to my hospital? They are also, after all, pieces of biscuit. So every month, she found that almost 40 to 50 kgs of these bits of biscuits, these remnants of biscuits were going to her hospital. And that itself was a big thing, because ultimately the difference between a properly shaped biscuit and that bit is nothing. They are all pieces of biscuit. And then that MD started thinking, she is such a committed person to her cause. She is happy with receiving only these small bits and remnants. Finally, his conscience became, okay, it's not a proper thing. And he started sending regular biscuits also. So why I gave you this example is that if you are committed to a cause, somehow all the things will happen in a way that you will automatically feel that you have really taken off. So that is another very important thing. So we have talked of having big vision and imagination. We have talked of focus, and we have talked of commitment. Now, all these things may be there, but there is one very important thing, very important entity who has to help you in this. Who is that? Guru. The importance of mentoring. In our Indian culture, in our Hindu culture, Guru is kept at a pedestal higher than God. You must have heard of the famous doha from Kabir. गुरु गोविंद दाओ साथ खड़े काके लागो पाए बलिहारी गुरु आपने गोविंद दियो सिखाए. कितने लोगों ने ये कबीर जी का दोहा सुना है? मेरे को सुना है. हो सकता है मैं ठीक से नहीं बोल पा रहा हूं या तेलुगु, हिंदी, उर्दू, इंग्लिश के चक्कर में, पर दोहे का मतलब ये है, कबीर इज सेइंग दैट व्हेन गॉड एंड गुरु आर स्टैंडिंग टुगेदर, आई एम इन अ डिलेमा, हुज फीट शुड आई touch first. And then I realized that I should first of all touch the feet of my Guru, because it is the Guru who shows me the path to God. Without the Guru, I cannot achieve God. So the next important thing is having a Guru and having due regard and respect for Guru. That is very, very important, the importance of mentoring. And in our culture in India, Guru, as I have already told you, is given tremendous regard. Tremendous regard. We are one country where we celebrate the Teachers' Day, Dr. Radhakrishnan's birthday. What date it falls on? Please repeat. Okay. We also, apart from celebrating Teachers' Day, we also have Guru Purnima, where we have celebration for eulogizing Guru. I do not know how many of you have seen Ramayana. I'm sure many of you would have seen, Ramana and Sagar's Maharaj. I very vividly recall a scene from that serial where Ravana is dying. He has been vanquished. He is in the throes of death. And Ram is standing there. Lakshman is standing there. Ram tells Lakshman, you go and take some piece of advice from Ravana. Lakshman goes. Ravan is lying on the floor, on the battlefield. He's on the ground. Lakshman goes and stands near his head and says, tell me, what do you want to tell? Ravan looks at him and then puts his face on the other side. Ram calls, Lakshman tells, when you are going to him for advice, he is your Guru. Don't stand near his head. Stand near his feet, touch his feet, fold your hands and then ask for advice. This is happening when Ravan is a person who is supposed to be a staunch enemy of Ram, but even at that point of time, Ram is giving advice to Lakshman. If you wants him to he wants you to advise you, give you some good, something sensible, you have to give him due respect. Stand near his feet and not near his head. Bow down, fold your hands, touch his feet and then ask for advice. So, importance of mentoring, having a guru and giving him due regard for his wisdom, for his advice, for his experience is very important. Please never ever forget this. That is why we call our Guru. Guru is no more a word in Hindi language. It is a word which is found mentioned now in dictionaries across the world. Isn't it? Guru, Swami, as we call them, they are of tremendous importance to us. We should not forget the importance of mentoring and having a Guru for us. This is again a place where every year the government of India gives the Dronacharya Award. And what is this given for? Dronacharya Award is given to the best sports coach in the country, who is again a Guru. So we have in our country the tradition of respecting, venerating Gurus and also taking the best out of them. We also have the example of Eklavya. I think all of you are aware of it. I won't go about it more. So you have these examples. Now you have got a Guru, you have got all these things. What else you should be doing to get success? And then I come to a very important part, and that is called integrity. I have been director in Anti-Corruption Bureau, additional director in Anti-Corruption Bureau, and in my view, one reason why India is so behind is because we in India lack intellectual and financial integrity. This is something very, very important. Mr. Willie Simpson, who has been a senator in USA, once said that if you have integrity, nothing else matters. If you do not have integrity, again, nothing else matters. If you have to see, if you list out all the attributes which are responsible for success, which contributes towards success, if I have to point out for the success of a nation or a society or an individual, it is integrity. Without integrity, as he has said, nothing else matters. You may be the most brilliant person. You may be the sharpest person. If you lack integrity, it is of no use to the society. You may make it big for yourself as an individual, but you will be forgotten after some time. So integrity is very, very important. I'm sure all of you would have heard the name of Warren Buffett. He has been a big investor and he is the owner of Hampshire, company and all that. He was asked that what is it that you look for your employees when you recruit them? He says, I look for three things: intellect, energy, and integrity. Not necessarily in the same order. In fact, he said, if there are people with intellect and energy, but lacking in integrity, he says they are the most dangerous people in our society. I want all of you to know it, that integrity is a very, very important value, perhaps the most important value. And if you want me, if there's one thing which I want like you to take from this session is the importance of retaining integrity in the face of the heaviest of odds. I have been to certain countries abroad. I have been to USA and many others. In USA also, we find that Indians are the richest community. The per capita, the income of a family, an average Indian family in USA is around $75,000. The income of an average American family is around $48,000. We as Indians are earning 50% more than the Americans in their own land. How is it? The other day you would have seen in the Pravasi Divas celebrations, we had this Prime Minister of I think Trinidad, who is an Indian. You find just now the governor of New Zealand is an Indian. You find there have been the prime ministers and presidents of Mauritius, Fiji, Guyana, many other countries who have been Indians. How come it is that we Indians, overcoming all the barriers of distance, language, color, all that, do so well abroad? And why do we fail in our own country? To me, the reason is corruption. And the opposite side of corruption is integrity. No matter how big the temptations are, no matter how difficult the odds are, I request all of you that one thing you must retain in your life is integrity. And when I talk of integrity, I am not only talking of financial integrity, I am talking of intellectual integrity. Intellectual integrity means, and that is something which I learned from the teenagers. Teenagers really have the highest level of intellectual integrity because you are not still influenced by what happens around you. You are able to think straight, you are able to question straight, you are not influenced by the biases of caste, color, creed, etc. These things, maybe as you grow up, you'll become more conscious of it, but these are the problems which in our country are very, very deeply entrenched. You find people from particular states, with particular languages, with particular colors, supporting and having networks. This is a very, very dangerous thing. All of us should be Indians first, Indians second, Indians third, Indians fourth. Our identity has to be just of one single word, and that is Indian. I was in USA and Australia, and I was amused to say that when they start the Independence Day celebrations, instead of doing it on 15th August, they start from the 10th. How does it happen? On the 10th, the Tamilians are coming together and celebrating Independence Day. On 11th, the Malayalis do it. On the 12th, the Punjabis do it. On the 13th, the Telugus do it. It looks so absurd to me. Even when we go abroad, we are not able to think of ourselves as Indians. We are North Indians, we are South Indians, we are Malayalis, we are Telugus, we are Bengalis, we are Punjabi Indians, we are Muslims, we are Hindus, we are Sikhs. This doesn't happen in any other part of the world. And that is when when I talk of intellectual integrity, I'm talking of this. We should have just one entity, and that is of an Indian. I am an Indian first. Doesn't matter whether I am from North or South. Doesn't matter which religion I belong to. Doesn't matter which language I speak. Just an Indian. My friend has already spoken of the Indian culture and all. I would like to tell you today, as we were discussing outside, we have this tremendous amount of Western influence. The Facebook, the TV programs, the soap operas, the breeze which comes, we are able to inhale it. But, and that is very important, our feet should be firmly grounded. We should not allow the breeze to sweep us away. So, it is important for us to expose ourselves to what is happening around us. There is no harm in exposing ourselves to the technology, to the equipment, to different things which is happening around us in the Western world. But we have to keep our feet grounded. We should not lose our own Indian culture, our Indian heritage, because it is really, really very rich. It goes back to 5,000 years, and no other country in the world can boast of it. We need to be firmly grounded in our culture, in our heritage, and we should take legitimate pride in it. If that is lost, I can tell you, the whole thing is lost. I'll try to explain it with the help of an example. You would have all heard of Ronald Reagan, and he's suffering from one disease. Can you tell me what is he suffering from? Sorry? He's suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Now what happens in Alzheimer's disease is that he totally loses his memory. Ronald Reagan's wife has been looking after him, and she does not allow him to meet people, friends and relatives and others and all that. When she was asked why, she said the reason is that he has lost his memory. He fails to identify faces. He fails to remember the events. He's just like a blank wall. And we feel embarrassed that somebody who has been the president of India doesn't have a memory. What Alzheimer's disease, what is happening to Ronald Reagan? It happens to a country if it loses his sense of history and culture. It becomes like a blank wall. Please remember this example. We do not want our country to start suffering from Alzheimer's disease, where we lose context, where we start forgetting our history. It will be like suffering from that disease. So please keep this thing in mind. Another thing which I find in teenagers are that you are not afraid to ask questions. You are not afraid to differ from your parents. That is a wonderful thing. Please do not take things on face value. If you disagree, you must express your doubts, ask questions, ask for clarification. Just because somebody tells you, please do not agree to it. This is something which we find more pronounced in teenagers, and I love it. I wish more and more people in this country develop the habit of asking questions, asking establishment, confronting them. You please retain this thing, but do it in a non-violent and respectful manner. Please remember that it is only the dead fish which flows with the current. Fish which is live may flow with the current, may flow against the current, but the decision belongs to the fish. It's only the dead fish which flows with the current. Please do not be part of a fashion. Just do not accept things because others are doing it. It should not be a norm. It should not put any pressure on you. So these were some of the things which I wanted to mention. Another thing which I would like to tell you is that do not hesitate to laugh. In our society, in India, we find people with passage of time, as they grow up in age, as they grow up in status, they start occupying higher positions, they become stiff. This is something very bad. Please retain the ability to laugh and relax. I recollect that Bill Clinton had come just about 2 years back, and he saw a small girl about 8 years old wearing goggles. He took the goggles from her, put the goggles on his eyes, sat down with the girl, and took a photograph hugging her. This is what disarming people is about. Always retain the ability to laugh also at yourself. It will make you a much more relaxed and a more confident person. Believe me, laughter and humor are very important ingredients of a balanced, well-rounded personality. Never lose it. And whenever you laugh heartily. Don't restrain yourself. Today in India, there is one Mr. Kataria who had started the Laughter's Club. It is very, very important. Laughter is good for your physical and mental health. Never lose an opportunity to laugh and laugh well. One more thing finally I'll tell you, and that is about two things, spirituality and leadership. Spirituality, my friend had already spoken a lot. I'll just mention one thing, that spirituality is very important for the simple reason that it keeps you grounded and rooted in reality. Sarvapalli Radhakrishna, our president, once said that to be spiritual is not to deny reason, but to go beyond it. When you go beyond the realm of reasoning and logic, then you enter the realm of spirituality. There is no contradiction between spirituality and logic and common sense or reality. It is something which goes beyond it. So spirituality is something which needs to be cultivated through the readings of great minds, through religious scriptures, and also through the sense of sacrifice, of which my friend Mr. Menon has already elaborated upon in a big way. I'll also tell you that there is a very important, very famous epitaph. Epitaph is something which is written on the graveyard of a person. And on the graveyard of Alexander, Alexander the Great as he was called, what is written on his epitaph? Here is the tomb of a person for whom once the whole world was not enough. I repeat, here is the tomb of a person for whom once the whole world was not enough. So Alexander the Great, supposedly the Great, who went out to conquer the whole world, finally for him just a space of 6 feet by 2 feet was enough. For whom at one point in time the world was not enough. So spirituality gives us a sense of balance, a sense of proportion in our life. It helps us stay rooted and helps in the enrichment of our life. The final thing which I'll tell is about leadership. Very, very small thing, something to chew upon, to ruminate upon, to reflect. General Patton once said that leadership, when you are talking of leadership, you have to consider your team to be like spaghetti. What is spaghetti? Noodles. And noodles, if the noodles are there, they cannot be pushed. If you have to take the noodles forward, you have to pull them. And how do you pull them? By staying ahead of them. Leadership is all about setting an example and showing everything that this can be done. When I can do it, others can also will be able to do it. It's all about setting an example and not only talking. You have to, as they called, walk the talk. So noodles have to be taken forward by pulling and not by pushing. Remember that you have to set an example. You have to do the things yourself if you want to prove yourself to be a good leader. This is all that I wanted to say this morning. It has really been an honor and a pleasure to be addressing all of you, and truly a wonderful experience. I feel greatly energized, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank our guest of honor, Sri Mehra Saab, Additional Commissioner of Police, Crimes, for the excellent advice he has given, categorically listing what are the items for which you have to show priority and follow in your life. The commitment, the interest, the involvement, the discipline, the spirituality, and all these qualities make you elevate yourself to higher levels of living. Thank you very much, sir. I am sure with these tender minds, they would open up for the great ideas and follow what you have said as a very, very sound suggestion. Thank you very much, sir.